G'day folks, Thunderballs here, and welcome back to another guide. Today we're going to take a deep dive into the world of Prospector mining. Here we have a Prospector with the Aphorite paint scheme. Nice purple tinge on the windshield, nice grey gunmetal exterior. But before we go out in the Prospector, we need to do a little bit of theory. We need to do some research. Thankfully, somebody has done that for us and provided a whole bunch of cheat sheets that we can refer to as we need. So thanks to Red Monster Gaming for providing these cheat sheets. I'll have a link to their site in the description down below. Let's go and take a look at some of these cheat sheets and see where we really need to start so we know what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. Now, I'd just like to say before we get into these cheat sheets that these are a little bit outdated. They are from 3.22, not 3.23, but they are still a great source of information. Let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to know is what is worth our time mining. What is valuable, what is not. Today, we're going to be focusing on the Prospector mining on a moon surface. All ores can be found either on a moon surface or planet surface or out in space. Today, we're going to focus on the surface. So the things that are worth our time investing in to make the best bang for our buck are Quantanium with an asterisk, followed by Bexelite, Gold, and Taronite. Now, Bexelite, Gold, and Taronite and Quantanium are our Tier 1 minerals, or ores. They are what you are going to get the most value for per SCU that you mine when you sell it. The issue with Quantanium is it is a volatile mineral. When you mine Quantanium, as soon as you get some of that on board in your Prospector, a timer will start. This timer is 25 minutes. If that 25-minute timer reaches 0 and expires, so will you. The Quantanium, now before that timer expires, you can either get to a refinery and store the ship. Once the ship is stored, it is then safe. If you're not able to make it to safety, then you will need to jettison your cargo. Other things that we can see on this chart are the estimated density. So that is the density of the material itself. So it is the weight of the mineral versus how much SCU you can get out of it. The higher the density, the less SCU you will receive per mass of rock that you are prospecting. Next, you have the instability. The higher the number, the more unstable that particular material is. Then we have resistance. The higher the number of the resistance, the harder it is for you to mine and fracture, followed by the optimal window thinness, which is basically the higher the number, the less of a window you have for your optimal window. The explosion multiplier is fairly straightforward. It is basically the higher the number, the more damage it's going to do when it explodes. Cluster factor, I believe this comes into play when it calculates how much of the material is going to be spawning in a cluster, or how many clusters will be spawned that have that material in it. So that covers the what. What are we going to go and mine? The best things, Quantanium, but you've got to be quick if you've got that. So if you've got a cluster of rocks that have Bexelite, Gold, or Taronite in it, grab those first, followed by Quantanium, and then go and refine. Me personally, I will grab anything that has a 30% or higher composition within the rock that you are fracturing. So if there is 30% or more of either of the Taronite, Gold, Bexelite, or Quantanium in the rock, I will take it regardless of what else is in there. When you do fracture it, those smaller pieces may have a higher percentage of the mineral that you're actually wanting to get. So you can get those ones first, followed by the smaller percentages. If you're just about full, you may as well just grab everything and go and sell. Also, if you don't have enough money to make your production orders, because when you get to the refinery, you've got to pay for those ores to be refined, you can just sell the raw material for about half the price of what it would be once you refine it. Next up, we have the where. Where are we going to go and mine these Tier 1 and Quantanium materials? This sheet here shows us that information. What we want to do is we want to find out the highest percentages of the Tier 1 items. We'll forget about anything lower than Tier 1. We don't care about those right now. Those will be the supplementary ores that we will collect while we're collecting the Tier 1 materials. The other thing that we need to take into consideration about where we are going to go and mine is the mass index range. Now this is telling us how big the rocks are that you are going to be mining at those locations. Because we are today focusing on the Prospector, which is the smaller ship mining vessel, we do have the handheld, we do have the Rock and the Rock DS on ground, then we have the Prospector. So we want the mass index to be within the range that the Prospector can handle. And for that, we want to find something around the range of low to mid 2s. As we can see, we've got 3 green average mass indexes on this list: Selen in Crusader, Yella also in Crusader, and Clio in Microtech. Both Selen and Yella are slightly higher than Clio, so let's focus on those for now. We then have the highest amount of Quantanium available on Selen. So if you want to focus on Quantanium for the highest possible profit, and do quick runs of Quantanium, get it back to the refinery and make the biggest profit you can, then Selen is where you would go for that. The worst thing about that is that Quantanium is the rarest out of the tier 1 materials that you can find anywhere in the system. Having said that, if we look at Yella, it has a 13.5%, a 14.18%, and a 15.7% chance of Vexillite, Gold, and Terranite. So all 3 of those are higher than what they are at Selen, however, not by much. If we take into consideration the values of all 4 of those materials and then average out those percentages, we come to an 11.815% on Selen and just over 12% on Yella. So you've got a better chance of getting a tier 1 material on Yella than you do on Selen. Me personally, I prefer to go out to Selen purely because the 3 tier 1 items are not that much lower than you would find on Yella, but the Quantanium is a much higher jump in the possibility of finding on Selen than it is on Yella. So I personally would go and do my Prospector moon surface mining on Selen in Crusader. Next up, we're going to have a look at the refinery bonuses. So each mineral can gain or lose additional yield depending on where you go and put those works orders in. So for the 3 tier 1 and the Quantanium that we want, the best place to go to for those is at MiCl2 because we get 9% on gold, 9% on Vexillite, and 1% on Quantanium. However, MiCl2 is quite a ways from Selen. So even though you're going to get a bonus if you travel all the way over there, the time that it takes to travel there, you could probably do another full load of ore in your Prospector on Selen if you were to just go and sell to Crew L1, where you would lose 6%. So you would lose 6% on 2 separate orders, as opposed to gaining 9% on 1 order potential. So I would strongly suggest if you're going to be mining out at Selen, you just go and return it to Crew L1, take the loss, but also take the efficiency. That is what it is. You're losing yield, but gaining efficiency. So now that we know where we're going to mine, we need to know how are we going to mine? What equipment are we going to use? We know we're going to use the Prospector. So what loadout are we going to use in our Prospector to do the job? So we've got 6 different types of mining lasers to choose from, and each of those has a size 1 and a size 2 variant. Things to take into consideration when you're picking which mining laser to use is you've got your optimal range, your maximum range, your minimum and maximum power, and your extraction power. Then you've got how many module slots you can fit on the laser. So the modules can then affect the various properties that a rock could have, like the resistances and the instability and ranges and all that sort of things, as well as also affecting the charge windows and charge rates of the laser itself. They also affect how much inert materials you receive along with the other materials that you're mining. So then it's a bit of a preference game as to whether you want to reduce resistances or instabilities or optimal charge range, optimal charge windows, or the inert materials that you receive. The next section of this page where all the X's are is just where you can buy those laser heads from. So I'll let you have a look at where you can get those from yourself. So the next cheat sheet we're going to look at are the mining modules and how they will affect your mining experience. There are 2 different types of modules: active and passive. Active modules have limited uses and a limited duration. So you would use it as you need it. Once you've used all of its charges, let's call it, then it's no longer usable. I'm not sure if you can fix that by just going and repairing it, whether that will rearm it as such, like when you go to reload and rearm and repair and all that sort of stuff, or whether you need to buy a new module. I'm not too sure on that one. Basically, they will give you a larger bonus for a short amount of time and a limited amount of time, whereas the passive modules give you the bonuses all of the time. Personally, I'd rather just use the passive modules, not worrying about having to activate a module as I need it. So just like the mining lasers themselves, some of the bonuses that the modules can affect are your laser power, the laser instability, resistance, optimal charge window, optimal charge rate, overcharge rate, shatter damage, extraction laser power, and the inert materials. When we compare the modules to the lasers, if we're looking at the Hofstede and the Helix, which reduces resistance, potentially increasing instability on the Hofstede, and in the case of the Helix, reducing the optimal charge window, you can then balance that with the modules. So for example, we could use a Riga C3, which will increase our mining laser power with a reduction of 1% on our optimal charge window. To counter that, we can add in a Focus 3, which also increases our mining laser by 95% and increases our optimal charge window by 40%. Me personally, those are the two that I go for. I want power and I want better optimal charge window. Sometimes I'll run 2 Focus 3 modules to get the most optimal charge window, but at a reduction of 39% optimal charge window, I can gain 30% power, which means I can then break a larger rock, a higher mass rock, potentially getting me more materials, but I would then need to be more careful with how I manage my mining laser's power to stay within that optimal charge window. If you were to just decide to use active mining modules, then my suggestion would be to go with the Surge and the Torpid. Reason being, you gain laser power, you gain optimal charge rate, you reduce your overcharge rate, you reduce your resistances, and a small increase to laser instability and shatter damage. So long as you don't stay within the shatter damage range, that's negligible. So once again, my personal preferences are the Riga C3 for increased mining power with a very small reduction in optimal charge window, and the Focus 3 with also an increased laser power and a larger increase of optimal charge. So we now know what we're going to mine, where we're going to mine it, and how we're going to mine it. So that is the end of our theory. Let's go in now and have a look at some of the practical applications. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do on the practical side of things is do our ship loadout for the Prospector. So you go into your mobiGlas, cross to the far right to your vehicles, select your Prospector from the ship list, and it is a MISC Prospector. As per my last guide with the ship loadouts, you've got your miscellaneous and flare items. I have none available here. Liveries, I've already equipped my Aphorite livery onto it, which is the nice purple window and greyish purple body. The systems have also been updated already to the JS400 power plant. Quantum drive is now an Atlas, and the shield generator an FR66. Vehicle weapons, I don't change those at all. They're only size 1 weapons anyway. And then under utility, this is where we need to change things up a bit. So I've already got the Helix mining laser attached and 2 Focus 3 modules, but I'm going to change one of those Focus 3 modules to the Riga C3 module. And then we just hit Save Changes and we are done. So that is our vehicle loader. So we can now go and grab our Prospector out and get ready to go mining. Okay, so here we are out in the middle of space, not too far from Crew 1. And there's just a couple of things that I'd like to show you. A couple of things to prepare yourself before you go out on a big mining expedition. So first of all, you want to make sure that you've got a cargo ship back at Crew 1. I usually keep at least 1 cargo ship there so that I can cart the refined minerals to a capital city to sell. Then I'll bring that cargo ship back to Crew 1, ready for my next trip out mining. You also want to make sure that you've got at least a tractor tool on you, some water if you're going to be out for a while, or cruise lux ice if you prefer that, unless you always remember to make sure that you get yourself hydrated when you get back to Crew 1 and drop off the works order. I usually have myself a mining outfit that I like to wear when I go out mining, as adds to the aesthetic, but you also want to make sure you've got an undersuit, a helmet, and a tractor beam on you at all times as well. One really cool little trick that you can do is sitting beside me here. Now, I earlier brought out my mole and had a friend of mine do the exact same thing here, where by standard, your MISC Prospector has MISC branded bags. Naturally, these bags each carry 8 SCU of ore, for a total of 32 SCU. Over on the mole, we can see that these are Argo branded bags, and they each carry 12 SCU of cargo. So what you can do on both the mole and the Prospector, you need to unlock your ship ports first, and that is by default right Alt K. I've got joysticks, so I've got that bound to my joysticks. Jump out of your ship, make sure that you do have your helmet on and you have a multi-tool with a tractor beam attachment in it. You can exit your Prospector. Okay, jump underneath your Prospector, grab your multi-tool out, and grab your MISC ore pods, drag them down, and throw them out into space. Do that with all 4. Now we go across to the mole and do the same thing. But instead of throwing their bags off into the distance, you want to put them back into your Prospector. So just maneuver yourself around. Oops, too far. Get them into place, get them green, and then just click your tractor beam to release them and put them into place. I think I have crashed into my ship. So now we have successfully equipped our Prospector with Argo ore pods, which nets us an additional 16 SCU of cargo. It gives us an additional 50% of cargo. Previously 32, now 48. We can now put our tractor beam away, jump back into our Prospector, open up our inventory, okay, grab your equipment off, put your fancy mining uniform on. Okay, so this is my mining outfit. So now I am ready to go out and do some mining. Okay, so as we have mentioned before, we are going to go and do some mining out at Selin. So you can always just search for Selin in your search locations now and route over to there. So this will take us via Crusader onto Selin. So let's head over there now and we'll catch up once we get there. Okay, so we've arrived at Selin, tucked down to one of the local sites. Now we just need to point ourselves to the ground, get down to ground level. We can actually swap it over to mining mode now as well. And we can start pinging and trying to work out where our first location is, if we can see one on the way down to the surface. You don't want to be coming in too hot, otherwise you will smash into the ground and blow up. 1K is probably a good height to be at to go flying around the surface to find some rocks. Okay, so we've got something over there, so let's go check that out. As you get closer to the unknown marker, you will notice that it will turn into these white and blue markers, or even just the white arrows. If you see them grouped up really close like that, they are most likely going to be just gems. And they are not what we are here for. It's like your dolomite, your aphrite, and your hadenite. Okay, so if we go have a look, it's aphrite. So we don't want that. That is too small for us. We're here for minerals and ore, not gems. So I'll scout around, see if I can find a rock, and we'll catch up again shortly. Okay, and here we can see that this unknown spot has moved on a bit further, and they are further spread apart. They will now be rocks rather than gems. We've got 7 rocks over there. Looks like there's going to be a rather large one that we probably won't be able to crack, but we'll see what we've got and we'll give it a go anyway. Now, I have gone into a bit of a basics guide for mining previously, so we'll go a little bit further as we're going into this one here. Now, if we remember our tier 1 ores, we've got quantanium, bexlite, gold, and taranite. So those are the items that we want to be mining. Looking back at this 40,000 mass item, for 40,000 mass rock, we've got laranite, aluminium, and inert materials. Inert materials, we don't care about that. It's going to be on just about every rock, and it's useless. It's worthless. We then have aluminium and laranite, which neither of those are on our tier 1 list. So we move on. If you see, when you first hover over a rock, it is purple. That means it can be extracted straight away. Once again, we've got laranite, aluminium, and inert materials, so we're going to ignore that. Now we'll just keep going around, looking at the rocks, scanning them, finding out if they've got anything that we want, and moving along. So this one's got bexlite in it, which is a tier 1 item, but there's only 20% in there. So I would still move on for that. It's not worth my time. I want at least 30%, if not 40%. Okay, so we've got 30% quantanium in this little rock, so we can suck it up straight away, so we don't have to worry about any of our optimal charge windows, so we can just switch straight over to extraction mode and suck that one up. So that'll give us at least 1 SU of quantanium, 1.27 to be exact. We now have another fairly large rock over here, which is probably going to be out of our reach, 30k. It does say impossible. It's got laranite, aluminium, and inert materials, which is not what we want. Now, as we can see, I've got quantanium on board. I now have in the middle of my screen a volatile cargo detected timer, and it's counting down from 25 minutes. So I've got 25 minutes to get this ship into a safe spot before the quantanium detonates. My suggestion to you, if you have quantanium on board, you do not want to have, if you're at Cellin, less than 10 minutes on your timer before you leave Cellin to head back to Crew 01. That'll give you enough time to get back and get stored. Now, if you find that you get to some rocks and they're not highlighting like this, just try another one and eventually they will all become highlightable. Taranite. 44%, that is on our list and it's easy. We will grab that. So, looking at our left hand side this time, our semicircle, we can see there is a moving bar that is saying at about 150, 140. That is how far away, how many meters we are away from the rock. We can see a little nodule down below that is our scan marker. That is the minimum distance we need to be away from a target to scan it. Then we have our optimal range, which is also marked. We are currently sitting at the max range, and so that's the maximum range that we can be at for our optimal window. So let's move up closer, get a bit further onto the optimal, and now we can start powering up our laser. Well, maybe it would help if we were in fracturing mode. Okay, so we're sitting on the minimum, which is 20%. And it is creeping up ever so slowly. So I am going to use my distance to manage my power, as opposed to the power to manage the power. So the closer you are, the more powerful the laser is. As you can see, it's going up faster. So by creeping back, I can then reduce how quickly that is moving up. And if it starts going down, I can then start tweaking the actual laser power. Let's start bringing that up a little bit. Okay, so we're starting to creep back up again. We want to get it into the green optimal range and keep it there. We do not want to go past the green into the red overcharge. Otherwise, if it is still in the overcharge range when the green fills up, the rock will explode and we could potentially take damage. It is very easy to not realize or get a spike in the power and get your overcharge all of a sudden, and you don't realize it, and you've just lost all 4 of your mining bags because it's exploded right on top of you. So we're sitting at a pretty good percentage here. It's fairly stable. The power is not moving. Even though we haven't gone into overcharge, I'm still going to move back a little bit just to prevent us from taking much damage. Now we'll have a look at all of these shards that have then broken off. They are all purple and all good to be extracted. So now I will go ahead and scan them to see what they've got, what their composition is. 67% Terranite, we will take that. So we'll just suck the whole thing up. 100% aluminium, don't care about that. 38% Terranite, we'll take that. %84 aluminium, not worried about that. That is 73% Terranite, much better. Now, as you can see, the laser beam is not quite in line with the pip, which is a bit annoying, but you've got to just account for that. Scan the next one, 40% Terranite. Yes, we will grab that. And then the last piece over the back here, 69% Terranite. We will grab that as well. Okay, we do have quite a few rocks around here, so we're going to check them out and see if we can find anything that we can grab quickly, because we only have about 4 minutes left before I want to be heading towards Crew 1 to avoid blowing up from the Quantanium that I have on board. This one's a 30,000. It's not going to be any good. It does have a decent amount of gold in it, but it's too big for us to grab. This one here is purple. It's ready for us to grab straight away. If it's got something decent in it, we will do that. Laranite, don't want it. This one here will be the last one I scan, I believe, before I start to head off. 30% gold, we will take that. So switch over to fraction mode. Now this one's got a smaller optimal window, which means we need to treat this one a little bit more carefully. Let's creep up a bit forward, get a little bit closer to that optimal range, and then drop the power down. If you do happen to get in the overcharge, the red space, drop your laser power down quickly, shut it off if need be, and then you can always bring it back down below optimal if you have to, or if you can manage to keep it in the optimal, that's even better. But dropping it down below optimal and clearing out the red overcharge is better than it blowing up in your face. We've just gotten a 12.5-minute warning on our volatile materials. That's fine, we've got plenty of time. So now we'll just find the best pieces of this rock to suck up and get the gold and get out of here. 50% gold, we'll take that. %51 gold, that one's great. Now, sometimes some of these rocks do go below the ground, so you've got to make sure that your laser is actually hitting the rock that is above the ground. We're not going to get that. That is very tiny and only 3% gold. 71%. Yeah, well, 79, sorry. We'll take that. All right, we won't take that one. 3% gold. We'll take that because it's 22% gold. That's still a fifth of that. That'll get us about half an SCU. And then we've got one more piece here. We'll check this out. I'm still going to grab this one as well. It's still going to provide us with money at the end of the day. And so we're now down to 10-minute mark on our timer. We're going to get out of here. So we want to switch it back into nav quantum mode, boost up out of the atmosphere, and then we want to start heading towards Crew 01. So what we can do is do a search for Ambitious Dream Station, or if it's in your recent list here, you can grab it quickly and route to it, and then you want to start hauling ass. I mean, 10 minutes is quite enough to be able to get yourself to Crew 01, land, and get down to store it at the ASOP. I wouldn't leave it any less than 10 minutes. One thing to note about putting the Argo mole ore bags on your Prospector is that they will persist if you store Prospector at a station. If you lose any of your bags and you repair it, it will be repaired back to MISC ore bags. Or if you have to claim your Prospector back for whatever reason, it will also be returned back to the MISC ore bags. Putting your landing gear down now in master modes is a good way to get you to slow down fairly quickly, and then you can just use your boost as you need it just to get that quick little spurt to get yourself into the hangar without having to go super slow. So coming into land, got a nice little skid there. So we've probably still at this stage got about 5 or 6 minutes left. So we would have more time, but you just never know what you might come into. Bugs, pirates, run into things, or have a bad time getting back to base. You don't want to risk it. 10 minutes is safe and comfortable. Okay, so we get to the ASOP, jump down to our Prospector and store it. As soon as that is stored, we are now safe. We don't have to worry about time. We can go and do other things now, like having a drink, for example. Have your drink. And go down to the refinery to create our works orders. Now, once we get into the refinery room, we've got ore sales and refinement processing. Ore sales is exactly that. You're going to sell the raw ore that you have on your ship. So if we go and select the Prospector, we can see that if we sell all of our ore, we will get 60,000 UEC. 31,000 for the Taronite, 13,000 for Quantanium, and 14,000 for gold. Now, I only have 8,000 UEC on me at the moment, so I probably can't afford to actually create a works order, but I will show you the process anyway. Jump in and begin a works order. You need to select your Prospector and then set up a works order. In here, you have the methods of processing the ore. Now, these methods will change the speed at which it takes to refine the ore, how much it costs to refine the ore, and what yield you get in return. So we can go and tick the ones that we want to refine, and you basically want to refine everything because same with the ore sales, it's all or nothing. If you don't refine something at this screen, it will be lost. So you may as well refine it, take it and sell it. Otherwise, you're just throwing money away. We can then get a quote, which will tell us how much it's going to cost us, and this will cost us 41,000 and take 4 hours. We don't want that. That is going to cost us too much for little return. My favorite is the Ferrin Exchange, which is low speed, moderate cost, and high yield. If we get a quote on that, we've dropped it down to 14,000. I still have insufficient credits. The next one that I recommend is the Dinix Solventation. This is a very low speed, low cost, and high yield method. We can get a quote for that, and it's going to cost us just under 7,000, which we can afford at the moment. However, we're still going to only then be left with about 900 UEC. It will take 28 hours, so it won't be ready now for over a day. So what I'm going to do, because I can't afford the Ferrin, which is a 9-hour job, I am going to go and just sell the raw materials. So as I said, I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to sell everything for 60,000 and then go and do another run. So now I've got 60,000, which should be able to afford 4, maybe 5 runs. The only other thing left to do if you do create a works order is to come back tomorrow. You would come up to the refinery room here. It'll tell you that you have so many works orders completed. You would select your cargo ship that you have stored at the station, and then you can put all of that refined ore into that cargo ship. Take that to your nearest TDD or favorite TDD or whichever TDD you would like to take it to, and sell your refined ores. That, my friends, is pretty much everything you need to know to get yourself mining on a moon in a prospector. Thanks everybody for watching this guide. I hope you enjoyed it and got some good information, and hopefully it was helpful for you as well, and your next prospecting or mining venture is profitable. So thank you all for watching, and until next time, Thunder out. Hey guys, Thunderballs here. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate all of your support, especially my Patreon supporters over on Patreon. Please see the description down below if you would like to support my channel a bit further by subscribing over on Patreon. You do get a few extra benefits over there with the giveaways. I've also got a Discord server, which is discord.gg/Thunderballs. Please feel free to head over there and join the community, where you can get extra information on Star Citizen news and my streaming events, as well as possibly joining me in-game for a chat and a play. Once again, thank you everybody for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe and like and comment on any of the videos that you see and like, as well as subscribing over on Patreon if you feel I deserve it. And until next time, Thunder out.